Even if there's only three.
You keep that in mind.
Or,
With my mom first products. YouTube, right? When I get home, I make sure, she goes, I looked all over the channels, I couldn't see it. Like, Mom, you need the internet, you need a computer. Yeah, I find it on the black and white.
Proceed now.
okay, so we will call our meeting to order of Tuesday, February 27th. And on that note, Madam Clerk, we turn it over to you.
Mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda, please. Councillor Champagne and Councillor Kelly. That the draft agenda presented to council and dated the 27th day of February, 2024 be adopted as prepared.
Favor? Yvonne Carey, thank you so much. Accepting the minutes of the previous meetings.
Mover and a seconder, please. Mayor Rakers, Councillor Kelly. That the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 13th, 2024 be adopted as circulated.
Favor? Business arising from the minutes? Actually,
I was just gonna say, should we mention Bell and the response?
yes, we can certainly mention Bell and it was, we didn't get, there was a fairly extensive article that was in the paper that confirmed that Bell will be investing $12 million in East Serres. And they committed to carrying out the work actually this summer. And I noted that this week there was a number of Bell trucks in our community. And the government also made a commitment. So we received commitments from both the provincial government and Bell saying that what they had committed to doing, they were going to carry out. And so on that note, I think it was a very, very favorable response. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Then that reminds me as well, there was the other delegation last week of Trump Association. And I was surprised, I was not aware that they had, the city of North Bay had reached an agreement with the federal government for cleaning up some of the, what they refer to as PFAs in Trout Lake. And so I believe our CEO may have some updated information on that point.
Yeah, Mayor Rockford. So just for residents' information, if they are interested in PFAS, City of North Bay has got a section on their website that's devoted to PFAS information. So the agreement, there's a bit of an overview on their website that the city entered into an agreement, a $20 million contribution agreement with Department of National Defense. Over 6 years is the term. National Defense will provide $19.4 million while the city is going to contribute up to $600,000. So it's a 97% is National Defense, 3% the City of North Bay. The cost is to cover studies, removal and remediation of PFAS at the airport. And then the agreement allows the city to go back to the Department of National Defense for second round of funding should there be other, claims to be made. So there's a lot more information. There's information on PFAS right on the website. So understanding PFAS, water safety as well, evolving science and regulations around PFAS and public health resources. So it can all be found on the City of North Bay's website for any residents that are interested or council.
Would there be a benefit to us posting something on our Facebook page as an update in terms of, because it does impact our residents, or maybe referring them to the city?
We can. I would certainly refer them to the City of North Bay because the city's got an agreement with the National Defense. And they've actually got a contact person at the City of North Bay, Karen Pratt, that oversees PFAS for the city. So she's an engineer. I would say she can answer the questions better than we're going to be able to answer the questions. So if the council wants to, we can put some kind of poll.
We should, because we got wells, people are wells, or not just wells, people are drinking right out of the lake too, so it's good to give them that information.
Good, excellent, thank you very much for that. Any other comments before we proceed? Declaration of conflict of interest, pecuniary interest thereof. There being none, chair's comments, simply to thank the municipality and members of council who were active at our carnival. It was an absolutely successful carnival. And so again, if we can maybe extend on behalf of the municipality, congratulations to the organizing committee. I'm always impressed by the fact that were they 5 or 6? I think there are 5 of them. It's just a small little group of people that do that. And so it's a lot. They all have full-time jobs working. So, and they have young families. So very, very impressive.
I think it's Bob Poine's daughter was there too, like his son. And she's good. I don't know how I ended up doing breakfast and lunch, but sometimes you just watch 5 minutes. 3 hours later, I'll still there about.
If the food was good. Well. So on that note, we're ready to proceed to delegations. So we have 3 delegations tonight. And so I would like to invite Inspector William McMullen, who is actually already seated. I'd like to point out that Inspector McMullen is a senior official in our area that we're representing the Ontario Provincial Police. And so we're very delighted this evening that he is here himself to make this presentation and to inform us on issues of collisions and maybe their causes. And so we turn it over to you, Inspector McMullen.
Thank you, Norman. I would stand, I have my computer, so, again, Inspector McMullen, North Bay Detachment Commander. I want to acknowledge that, the local police service board is probably one of the most interactive police service boards I deal with on a regular basis in terms of identifying problems in the community and not necessarily looking at the police to solve those issues, but saying how as a community can we address these issues? Because most issues that we deal with on a daily basis aren't necessarily police issues, whether it's mental health, addictions, poverty, education, all those things that we deal with on a daily basis through calls of police, not necessarily police calls, but they're calls that we have to deal with nonetheless. So I have found over the years that the police service board has been very examples of community safety, community plan, safety plan. It was a very wholesome view of the community and look at all the different areas that we could look at improve our community. And it wasn't just a reliance on one particular agency. So I've always appreciated the police services board's proactive nature and taking on issues. And we're going to talk about what collisions, but we've had other safety issues that we've addressed. Pedestrians walking in your neighborhoods, and there's the issues with the vast. Those are widening, slowing down your speed limits, widening some of your roads. Those are proactive things that we've taken on, municipalities taken on to improve safety, because it can't just be us. We can't be everywhere at once. And police is not enough of a deterrent to correct all bad behaviors. If it was, the world would be a lot better place than it is right now. So we have to rely on communities and good people to step up and sometimes take appropriate actions. When it comes to collisions, the loss of life is always our biggest concern. Loss of life, loss of health because of collisions. That's our main focus when we're taking proactive measures. So one thing I found over the years, enforcement does not necessarily correlate to a decrease in collisions, or fatalities, or injuries. It comes down to driver behavior and how the drivers do, and we have to acknowledge it's probably an increase in traffic over the last 6-7 years. And it's been a while since the MTO has done an analysis of any roadways or traffic ways. I know East Ferris does, that doesn't the ability to monitor traffic flows. And it's fairly new the last couple of years, so it'd be interesting over 5 years to see how much traffic is increased within area roads and now how specs on that improve. So what we're looking at, like our highway collisions, we don't really have a tool to assess how much traffic has changed over the last 10 years. I could say, just looking at it from the other side, I would believe the eye test, there's much more traffic than there ever has been, of which the end result will be increased collisions. So we look at, for us, commercial motor vehicle collisions and deaths are very high priority for us. In the last couple of years, we've had the highest amount of fatalities across class we've ever had. And we've increased our efforts twofold and we haven't seen the results. So it's hard for us to associate proactive efforts to reduce those fatalities when it comes down to most time driver error or driver behavior. So we look at this, so over 5 years, you got 180 collisions, that's about an average of 37-40 collisions per year. Many of you are going to recognize the area, so that's the entire area of East Ferris. And then we have it broken down in specific areas after that, just to kind of show you where they're occurring. You probably all know these areas more than I do in terms of the roads, so I hear it's fairly minimal at 27. It's not that big, so this is. Yep. So you can see it's going up a little. So 38, and then we get to now the numbers really start to climb up, and now this is probably, I would suspect, your busiest road that goes through the community, right? Asterville Road, Portville Road are your busiest community. Right. So that would make sense to me why you would have most collisions. And then the bottom one is rated around Astro. So I'm gonna take you to, this is an interaction site we have here. So this is over the 5-year period that we were asked to look at. So to me, what jumps out is wildlife conditions. And stats are depending who was on speak tonight. Can attest to 3 of those, just for the record, so on 3 occasions, he's hit a deer going home,
On 3 occasions.
3 separate occasions,
Yes.
and the last one was 10,000.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
So if I was an insurance company, I'd be like, what is happening? That's very, very expensive. So, well, that's why I made into that, so. I don't specifically have anything, so this map here is kind of there. So primary cause, you're gonna see one number is 49 is the constant that was, it's actually categories out of it. And I had our statistician go through them, and these are some of the examples that are 49 is a very high number. So we had one incident was ATV on the road with this clearing stall. Accidentally hit the gas instead of the brake. 2 vehicle NBCPD parked in a parking lot. Medical emergency caused a collision, driving, swerving, and avoiding a collision, but no details, so that's, we get to the scene, it's reported after the fact. We don't know what happened and why swerved and missed something, we get that a lot, by the way. So we can't actually back that up, so we classify it because we can't substantiate that. Reported after the fact, that's a very hard one for us to investigate. I was in a collision yesterday, so we can't attend the scene, we can't speak to anybody else, so we have to rely on the information provided to us. And non-reportable collisions, so that'd be anything under $2,000. So out of the 188, there's gonna be, majority of those 49 are gonna be under $2,000. So when I look at the deer, so to me, that's primarily deer and some collisions story. So when I was policing in Berks Falls, on Highway 11, just south of Berks Falls, there's one person on one side of the highway feeding deer, somebody on the far side of the highway feeding deer. In a 1-week period, we had 39 collisions with deer. That was just because they were migrating back and forth on the feeding zones. So this is something that you can maybe communicate with your residents, if it's happening or not. If they're feeding deer, then the impacts are not only negative for collisions, but there's a lot of, it impacts their health, a lot of different things. It's actually not beneficial to deer. Like at this winter, it's been a very easy winter, but if people are feeding deer, it's changing their migration habits and the roads they travel. But then the deer aren't causing the collisions, and it's an intent to drive. So I think every year people can confirm that they've seen releases from the OPP and other police services that in the spring and the fall, animal habits change, the travel habits change, the time periods have changed. So we usually put new releases out. I brought one with me. It just kind of reminds the motoring public that that's here, so this is from every year in Ontario, there's about 12,000 deer and wildlife collisions, leading approximately 400 human injuries per year. These collisions tend to happen 1 hour before dawn and 1 hour after dusk. Although collisions with wildlife happen year round, the most dangerous conditions occur in October and November, which is peak breeding season. So as a community, I don't know if like we'll put the reasons, but something maybe you can communicate to your residents that dawn and dusk are the most dangerous times for our collisions. That's usually when they occur with deer. And obviously in the fall when the rut's on in the breeding season, and even sometimes in early May too. So those are our real peak seasons where we see collisions going up. And then obviously weather contributes to the collision. If you look at that graph, that is like almost exclusively animals for the most part. I'd say the 49, which is other, a lot of those are going to be weather related. Now the rest, inattentive, loss of control, failed yield, driver fatigue, and proper lasting. Those are pretty insignificant. If you look at 1 out of 188, I wouldn't necessarily action that particular concern. But the animal ones, that's a concern. And it's very expensive to the community. So to me, what can we do about it? It's education. It's drivers being aware when they're driving those times of day that they have to be looking. I was out driving my daughter to horseback riding last week. And as I was coming over a knoll, I just happened to look to my left, there was 7 deer standing in front of the road. If they would have jumped out, I would have been more of these numbers. So that's how easy it can happen, but you have to be attentive at all times when you're driving. In the winter time, how many times we'll go to a collision during the winter? And they'll be in the ditch, oh yeah, the roads are bad. Well, as I'm standing in the ditch, I'm watching how these cars drive by, they're going in the ditch. So yes, the roads are bad, but you didn't adjust your driving to the conditions. So that's we attribute a lot of collisions to people not adjusting the driving to the conditions. So when our officers are involved in collisions, and it's usually we attribute you didn't drive towards the conditions. So if they're going to a 911 call, and it's summertime, you could drive 100, you can't drive 100, it's snowing. So our expectations, you only drive as fast as you can usually get there without getting in a collision. So that's the expectation we have for our members. And it should be the same expectation for everybody on the highways, for everybody's safety. So when I look at this, it's just if we can continue to educate your mind, our community members that when we're driving, these are the back roads that are going home, just be careful, slow down. If it's dark, you gotta slow down, you can't have drive your headlights. And it's dawn or dusk, so you definitely more deer movement and you really have to be attentive. So all I can think of, unless you have any questions specifically to that.
Thank you. Wait, Dr. Chappell?
Probably the biggest part of the accident, probably between October 1st and December 15th, that's when deer season's off, so. Unfortunately, in our municipality, there's a lot of deer hunters, so, and everybody feeds deer. But if you look at the numbers, though, we average 50 new homes a year, on the average the last 5 years, so. Even if you average it at 30, that's, people have 2 vehicles in each. So that's 60 new vehicles over 5 years, that's 300 new vehicles going out of our municipality. So we're growing. And again, it's education. A lot of people move from the city, feed the deer, whatever, because they like the outdoors. How do we get that? And we've got a lot of people traveling from one municipality to the other through a municipality. So again, a lot of times people who speed are not from here, or if they are speeding, it's on a dead end road, which they live there. So it's a big circle of life. You can't change everything, but I think enforcement helps.
Yeah.
But I think probably maybe put up deer signs more places where we know they're being fed. That might be an option.
Well, and to that point, if we look at the dots, can you sort of pull out where the animal collisions are? So that is that a possibility? I don't know.
So I lost this link is not reactable. I'm wondering if I lost the signal.
We're getting bells.
Certainly, I mean.
Yes, okay, if I think I lost my signal to, I was working off the Wi-Fi, we're attached to this building. But I think I lost my Wi-Fi link. I'll just try this.
I had analyzed where, on that note, where they were the major places they were occurring. And certainly Lake Wisconsin was a major road. And so basically Corbeil Road, Astorville Road, Corbeil Road surprised me that there were that many. I must say.
There's a lot of people feed deer on Corbeil Road, just as many as.
I lost my.
Okay, that's what I.
Give you our.
I can follow up over council. To level specifically with the deer accidents occurring. And we might be able to pinpoint that people are feeding in that area. And the M&R will come on and have a conversation with them. So that's another thing. If you do identify somebody feeding, they're not gonna get in trouble, but the M&R will come on with a conversation to educate. Because people think they're doing a service to the deer. But if I read the report providing to the M&R app today, this tells me about a lot of the negative attributes of feeding deer. Altered traditional movement of deer patterns, causing deer numbers to increase beyond ability to support the land. Deer do not traditional yard in those available areas, increases deer metabolism, which is not a good thing in the winter. Wrong types of feed can actually kill deer. High deer numbers and traction of deer also brings predators into the area. And the deer are become more aggressive. Aggressive also causes stress and increased energy demands. So this is a long list of things that actually negatively impact deer feeding. So people who think they're providing a service actually aren't. Winters are obviously more difficult than others, but that's for the M&R to address, not for local citizens to try to support the deer population. And these numbers are based on decreased deer populations. Deer populations are actually rebounding. So those are, I expect if we don't change our driving habits, those numbers are going to really. Because in the last 5 years, the deer numbers have been the lowest they've been in decades. So now the deer population, especially after winter like this, the deer are gonna start to rebound. So I don't anticipate unless we change something, those numbers are going to increase.
And they're good topics for us to bring to our Public Works Committee and also to our Police Services Board and to see what we can do from an educational perspective, signage perspective, and any other actions that we might be able to take. On that note, if a citizen wanted to call to say, could you bring more information to a neighbor of mine, how would they go about and do that?
For now, you can contact me, but I would get a contact number for the MNR. So that information I have is from actually an MNR biologist. But I do have a local contact that I'll confirm how they want to receive their tips for follow-up investigation, and I'll communicate that back to council and to the board.
Very good. Any further comments or questions? Well, thank you very much, Inspector Collin. Yes, good report, very informative.
And just so you know that we do have an officer now that's is completely dedicated to traffic enforcement. So I encourage all the municipalities that have police that if there are ongoing issues within those municipalities or concerns, legitimate concerns. The first reporting we always say is call the police what's happening, because the only way we'll actually find the person who is doing the offenses. If not, call our non-emergency numbers of 1-888-310-1122. Report to complaints. Once we start seeing a pattern of complaints, I have the ability to direct this officer to go to work of those complaints, and he will determine the specific areas. Then I can report back to council saying, we've received so many complaints on, say, Deerland Road. I've had that officer work there over a 3-week period. Here are the results. So then, as I know, sometimes neighbors, community members can be very vocal in terms of what their perception of the traffic complaint is. So sometimes we have the ability to say, yes, justified, or according to no,
That's a very important point you make, because we do have different Facebook pages and community groups in our community. And sometimes you see them discussing issues of speeding on certain roads, and then you'll get one citizen that will say, did you call the OPP? But it doesn't seem to be a first reflex or response. So it's one we need to definitely encourage. So thank you for saying that. And maybe through our Facebook page, maybe that's something we could further communicate.
If I may, Mayor Rochford, Inspector McMullen, are you able to share the media advisory that you have, as well as the negative effects of feeding deer? So we can use that. Yeah, perfect.
And what was the number that you said? The non-emergency number?
1-888-310-1122. So that'll put you in contact with our communication center, and you'll want to take it complaint and assign it appropriately.
And we did add it to our calendar this year. Is it in our calendar, Madame Rose? The OPC, it's in our, when you open the calendar, it's right there, right? We added it this year. Yeah. Wait.
I just want to comment. I like the fact that it's so up to date. It's 2023 was last year. The stats are there. I'm just thinking it would be an idea to put this in our welcome package for new residents, saying we've got a lot of deer. Here's the number of collisions in the last 5 years. Please be aware. And also a comment too on when we get the invitation, put it on our calendar, the next calendar coming up.
Oh, yes.
And say, you know what, because we're getting a lot of people from other areas moving into the municipality. They're not getting, and it's rightly, they're like wildlife and so forth. They think they're doing a good thing. They don't know the repercussions.
Make up a flyer. And then if there's, we know there's a spot, just put it in their mailbox. You don't have to be knocking on their door. We just let them know that it's.
Yep.
Okay. So I will put that on our police searches board agenda.
But thank you very much.
Yeah. Very good. And there was a recommendation to consider for a calendar. Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Very well.
I had a lady call me up. She said, kept complaining about the same vehicle. She says, I took a picture when I was following them. I go, I really don't want to see that. Sure. I don't think the police want to see that picture.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Hey, thank you.
I'll be training her this week. That's my annual boxer. Thank you very much.
Good evening. And our next presenter is Kevin Morfitt with the Swanson Curling Club. And we welcome him as well to the center of the table here right here, Mr. Morfitt. And I don't know if any of you are curling enthusiasts, I guess. If you watched curling on the weekend, there was 2 great games, both Saturday and Sunday. Then if you see those, Rachel Holman and I guess Jennifer Jones back to back both evening, it was incredible curling, so competitive and so great. So finally to have a presentation from the curling clubs, and the Briar starts next weekend. So.
Campaigns in a row.
So Jason, will you roll the slides?
If you're okay with that,
That works for me.
okay.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Colin. My name is Kevin Morfitt, and I'm here on behalf of the Nodfinson Curling Club. I am the ice and facility convener at the curling club. Been in that role a few years now, and what I'd like to do tonight is present to council the our plans going forward for some capital investment in the club. I'd like to, I guess, ultimately get council support of our plan as we are a tenant in the club facility, and to look at ways to partner with the municipality to go forward and implement some of these actions. Just quite briefly here, looking at the history of the curling club, began back in the early 80s, sharing the ice with the arena facility at that time. I think the big thing to note in the, I think in the mid 80s, a group of local residents guaranteed some loan funding to actually build a separate curling club facility, and that's presented on the board within the community center. Really nice to see. The club itself, we continue to grow despite the pandemic challenges that we had for a few years, but I really believe it's become an integral part of the community. Some of the success stories, we've had 5 leagues, which include men's, women's, mixed, daytime league, and youth curling league. So we cater to a pretty wide, diverse community. We currently have approximately 125 members, and we're active in the club 5 days a week, actually 6 days a week. We've made investments over the last few years to improve some of the quality and curling aspects. We've invested in new curling stones, ice maintenance equipment, invested in new point of sale system in the club itself. But what we're looking at here, a little broader than that. Our Family Feud Bontsfield, which has become part of Winter Carnival, that's been a huge success for us. And during the 2018 World Women's Championships, the club hosted the Czech Republic women's team for practice sessions during that, and we got some good publicity through TSN at that event, and actually TSN participated and came out and used the curling club during one of the days during the week. So and again gave us national exposure during the broadcast. So I think one of the things that we want to do is really try to promote an inclusive atmosphere, grow our membership. We are only a 2-sheet club, but we still have capacity within it to grow our membership. We're entirely volunteer operated, and we do have a dedicated group of volunteers in the club. So I think really improvements are necessary to provide a sustainable facility, modern, and really become an integral part of the community. So the plans that we put in place are proposing really cover two major aspects. Looking at the on-ice curling environment and also clubhouse upgrades. And I'll work through each of those categories. So really, the on-ice curling experience, we have a decent facility, but the quality of curling ice is both a science and an art, I think, at the same time. And we have so many weather factors that influence the quality of the curling ice, like fluctuations in outside temperatures and so forth. So one of the biggest things is being able to control our humidity within the club. And we've looked at adding dehumidification system and also improving the heating on the ice. There's days in January where it is quite cold within the club, and if we supplement some of the heating, it will improve it. Now, I've put together numbers here, and some of these numbers are a little out of date. I did get estimates done. They're probably a year out of date right now and would have to be updated. The next aspect, you can see in the left-hand side, the carpeting, which is around the perimeter of the club. It's basically at its end of life. It's just wear and tear and so forth over the years. I can't say how old it is, but I'll dare say it's 20, 25 years from. So just needs a freshening up. And again, we had estimates done looking at probably in the area of $10,000. The existing ceiling that's in the club, I think it's part of the original construction. It's just a polyethylene type material, facet. And if we were able to secure some government funding, we'd like to just to replace that ceiling with something more modern, improve the look of the club overall. Right now, anybody that's been in the club, our ice maintenance activities are sort of split between two areas within the club. There's an on-ice area, which is the picture in the left-hand side. And we house most of our ice equipment, but most sort of the day-to-day operational handling of the ice, that facility is within the lounge area itself. So it's a little bit disjointed when we have crowds within the club, and they consolidate that entire ice maintenance facility in one area within the club. A summary based on those numbers comes up to about 130,000. Again, like I said, we have to update those numbers. So within the clubhouse itself, what we propose to do is modernize the clubhouse and also provide, I guess, facilities that meet the AODA requirements into play in 2025. It really leads to the washrooms itself that we have within the club. And also we have a series of stairs getting into the club and onto the ice. And we're looking to modernize that to, again, expand opportunities, wheelchair curling in the area and so forth. And this speaks to some of the AODA requirements around accessibility. The picture on the top left is the entrance into the club itself, a very shallow 3-step entrance. The next picture in the top right is actually the stairwell down to the basement area. Not necessarily thinking that we would have to make that accessible necessarily. But the other picture is the entrance onto the ice and looking to get it fully accessible to have access on the surface. Also looking at reconfiguring the clubhouse area itself and looking at the requirements based on our capacity levels. My interpretation of the building code was that we could probably implement a single universal washroom and meet the capacity requirements of the club by also utilizing the arena facilities, which are just across the hallway really from our entrance. So this picture would allow us to expand the area within the club lounge area, providing universal washroom and basically an overhaul inside and looking at upgrading the HVAC system within the lounge area to include air conditioning and more up-to-date heating system that would allow for perhaps better year-round use of that facility. These estimates, I will qualify that they're just really best guesses on my part. Looking at commercial lifts, accessible washrooms, reconfiguring the floor plan, smaller item, upgrading the clubhouse furniture itself. For a total bill of that of 100 or 280. So if we combine that with the on ice improvements, you're over $400,000. That's an estimate. And the curling club itself, we've had various fundraising initiatives the past few years. Besides investing in the clubhouse itself, we have about 75,000 still in funds within the bank account. So looking to make applications to the provincial government and really, I think the NOHSC Community Enhancement Program seemed to fit really well for the types of things that I was proposing. There's also the Trillium Fund, which is under the Ministry of Sport and Heritage, I believe. Maybe opportunities there, but I think the better one is through the NOHSC program. So really the next steps that I'd like to achieve is get the support of council for trying to move forward and perhaps with that leverage some of the supports that the municipality may have, whether it's helping us initiate the application processes. One of the things I think we have to do first is to get some engineering work done to properly spec out what we're looking to do. I don't know whether the municipality has access to retainers that we could tag on to get some of that work done. We need to get the application in, recognizing that the time lapse of getting approvals and so forth is probably in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 months, and proceed with the upgrades if we can get some grant funding. And grant funding isn't approved, we would have to probably reprioritize some of the initiatives that we want to move forward with and complete those within our financial means.
We're just about out of time. Perfect.
And any questions?
Yes, so thank you very much. We will open it up to questions and comments, but that was an excellent presentation. Thank you. Yeah. So Councillor Champagne.
I'll start off with, I'm really glad that your group has stepped up every 5 or 6 years, it seems to change, but everybody still gets involved in the community. That's really nice to see. We did your layout for the upstairs. The new layout.
Actually, Justin confirmed them.
It's actually, it's a good layout. I like that. There's only one washroom, but you got actually 3 washrooms or 4 washrooms 20 feet away.
Exactly.
So you don't really need all that space, and moving the bar over would actually give it more room.
Yes, yeah,
So it's
and I
actually-
think if we make that one washroom fully accessible, handicap accessible, it meets the requirement.
And I haven't said that, through the grant application, has to go through the municipality anyway, doesn't it? Because it's our
And
building.
that's a question we should, maybe just to
Yeah.
respond to that, and a couple of things, we need to understand the legal status of the curling club. But we were very, I think as a municipality, as a council, we've been impressed with, for example, what we experienced at the Corvette Park Hall with Club Action 50+ that applied themselves and for funding, were successful, carried out the work on, and so that is maybe a best, an example of maybe a project that we could look to replicate here. But I'm not sure of what is the legal status of the, sponsoring curling club? And then I turn it over back to Councilor Champagne, because he was still,
We're
are you
a non-profit,
not, okay?
but I don't know if we're incorporated.
Do you have a business number?
Never did. This last one.
I It's within my realm.
So those would be the sort of things that my impressions are that your next steps are exactly what we want as a council, to return it to staff to examine and to come back to council, maybe, and to the curling club with a way forward, but certainly that would be an element to consider. On that note, Councilor Champagne, back to you.
Yeah, not to step, that's what I'm just saying, because usually it goes through, but there's a time issue here where you can apply for your funding, so the sooner, I guess what I'm getting at is, you're gonna apply for the funding and get it, you're gonna do the work. If you don't get the money, you're gonna have to simplify it.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's hard to apply for something in the meantime, and whatever help that we can get, see this through. Give me some help, I guess, in the time. Through a CEO, obviously, and maybe find something way to help or speed this up.
Quick comments? Thank you, Councilor Champagne. Councilor Kelly.
Yes, just from my experience, from what I've learned over the years, I would also include seniors when you apply, because there's been a lot of focus on seniors and their activity levels. I don't know if you still have seniors.
We
As a separate entity?
Our daytime league is primarily seniors. And we're actually in the process of working with the Action 50+ group to bring them in for a day in March to introduce them to the game.
Fantastic.
With the hopes of expanding that.
Any application you make, I would put that in as a separate entity and really focus on it, simply because there's a lot of money become available for senior programs. And this is one that gets them out of their house in the winter. Spring, summer and fall, not so, it's not as vital as it is keeping older people active in the wintertime, especially in a rural community. And it's, you're doing one heck of a job, and thank you for that.
Further comments or questions? But just to build on that, Councilor Kelly, I understand your Club Action 50+ have all the equipment necessary to do shuffleboard. And in the summer, I mean, they've not expanded, but that certainly could be a facility for Club Action 50+ or any other group that wanted to use the facility, in the summer.
That's an excellent comment. Is the width wide enough for pickleball courts?
I'm not a pickleball player.
Neither am I. That's why I'm asking.
I waited to tell you in a heartbeat.
Okay, because if it is an indoor,
I don't think it is.
Okay.
The width of the building from wall to wall is 28 or 30 feet.
okay, maybe not width wise, maybe length wise.
Lengthwise, you could definitely probably put into.
A lot of people don't like being outside, they like being inside, especially in inclement weather. Just a thought.
It's currently used for pickleball inside the arena.
Yep.
I must say that to my surprise, the curling club have been excellent advocates. They've already gone out into the community of business influencers and grant givers and have examined to see if there is interest. So we were at a meeting recently and there was people there representing NOHFC who said they had met with the sponsoring curling club. And they thought it was an excellent program, an excellent project, and they highly recommended that we should be putting that project forward. And actually, the person that spoke before this audience actually said that this is an example of the type of applications that we are looking for from communities and community groups, and for all the reasons that you just described. So we were surprised, but it was very good. It was very, very timely and it came across very well, I thought. But so certainly, I think next steps are, I think we would all support the next step that they should meet with staff to examine the legal status of the club. If we were able to do it in that fashion, like Club Action 50+, it was very successful. We had the municipality is not big. How do we say that? We're always batting above our is a weight or, so we are lean and mean. So the capacity to undertake many projects sometimes is difficult. So if we can get a group such as yourself involved in actually doing a lot of the work to the benefit of the community, that makes a big difference for the municipality. So I would say that what you propose this evening comes across somewhat like that. You've done a lot of the estimates already on your own, which is wonderful. And so if we were able to just to provide, I think as a councillor, we come comfortable with encouraging the next steps that should return to council, to staff to look at. And to maybe bring back, and I mean, this is not something that's done overnight. It's not, I mean, the NOHFC, is there a time period? Is it it's open, right? That community and.
It's open. They continue to receive applications, but Trillium, the deadline's March 6th. It's 8 days away. It's too late.
Yeah, and it might be better to lead if the group was successful in getting a NOHFC grant first, given that they've already done some advocacy there and there seems to be an interest that would probably be a better way forward, right? To have a successful.
I would suggest it's an NOHFC because Trillium, you're limited to $200,000 maximum. That's not going to cover 410. But with NOHFC, it's usually $500,000, Greg, right? The NOHFC capital is $500,000, so that covers $410,000 investment, right?
And they do 75%. I think that would be what we would.
It is based on the size of the community.
We're gonna have to look at the status of the club, because if it goes through the club, that could be a different eligibility criteria and coverage. It's the same if you're an Indigenous community, I think it's 90%.
Okay.
If you're a municipality, so so we're gonna have to look at that.
The assets are municipality anyway.
Right, correct.
Well, the building is, but the actual equipment would be owned by the club, right? So. But they'll tell us in the eligibility criteria for NHSFC whether you've got to be, like, I know they accept not-for-profit, they accept for-profit applications, NHFC. Municipalities, so we'll have to look at that.
Thank you.
Okay, then thank you very much. And
Thanks, Kevin.
thank you.
Kevin, we'll reach out for a meeting.
Okay, please, some contact information on the slide deck.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
Was it this week or?
He's retired.
Okay. An ice plant manager. But thank you, council. And so brings us to our third delegation, which is Mr. Bissonnette, James Bissonnette, who is the president of the East Ferris Horticultural Club. And so we welcome him as well to this table here in the front.
See, I'm not following you, I'm not asking for 400 dollars. So.
Welcome and.
Like to introduce myself, just Bissonnette, owners, few small businesses. And got the idea of having a horticultural club in our community for a while and presented to Greg back here and Mayor and had some ideas which kind of came through fruition. We launched in June. And basically the goal of what I had as a vision is to beautify our local areas with plants and flowers and miscellaneous, which I think that the community is a little bit behind. When we look at other communities such as Callender and surrounding areas, even Mattawa, city streets, they maybe have more central hub to focus on. So it's a little bit easier, but anyway, I'd love to beautify our local area with my company. Background and education, landscaping, I thought it was an opportunity to help the community. So, anyway, that's a little bit about what my goal is. So we've put together a plan since we've launched. We've got 25 members. With the 25 members, we hosted a fundraiser, which a couple of the council members were part of, which I appreciate, and we raised approximately $8,000 at that fundraiser, at our first fundraiser, and we'd like to put that money back in the community, while asking for a little bit of money as well, to support the horticultural club and beautifying our area. So the program and budget that we put together, we have anglers and hunters. Anglers and Hunters has given us the building, nice central hub for us to have our meetings in, once a month meetings. And we'd like to continue to develop that with our money that we've raised. We see it as a little bit of an opportunity as you're coming around the corner, you're coming into Astorville. It's just off of the edge of the road, so with the edge of the curb edge and stuff like that, we can make a decent presentation there. Then we have the medical center, the medical office. Evergreen Landscaping donated the gardens a couple of years ago. However, last year I think we could have done better as a company, but I think we let it go because we just kind of managed it for 1 year. So the horticultural club would be able to go in there on a volunteer basis and clean that up, continue to water and fertilize, do stuff. But we feel like we would need a small budget from the municipality as it's their property of about $500. These numbers are speculated, basically hypothesized based on the size of the garden with my experience. So we would ask that we can get these fairs to donate or contribute $500 so we can continue making the gardens presentable. Each Fairs Community Center. There's a budget of $1,500 with some plantings underneath signs that I think we can address and make that a little bit more presentable. The library is also, it's not on here, but there's a person doing the library, and I think we could probably help that person that's taken it upon himself to maybe do something, but all that area, what we do in the bed, maybe we could do a little bit of an edging and do some gardens on the outside of the bed as well. Yeah, since it's not 400,000, maybe we could bump that a little bit. Anyway, we'd like to put some money into that. Coming next is the Memorial Park. Since the Horticultural Club launched, and I understand that the Memorial Park gardeners have resigned, we've taken it upon ourselves to kind of take that over. There's lots that we can do. $5,000 budget from Spurs would be modest, in my opinion, what that park deserves. I think there's probably way more opportunities to make a presentation there that maybe the previous club members didn't have. But we would ask that we would receive a $500 or $5,000 the minimum to continue moving that Memorial Park forward, as I do believe from previous management, they had that every year as it is. So I'm not asking for any more money there, but if you have it, we could use it.
Gone to the curling club.
What's that?
It's gone to the curling club.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should. So, the municipality office, we would like to donate $1,000 in plants, budget, time, soil. To make the municipality, the office presentation, people coming and going. We'd also get brand recognition by doing some plants here with maybe some signs that the horticultural did it. As well as, we need some planters, we need something to put the pots and plants in. So if we were able to get some sort of pots, not the naturally grown ones, but the real big pots. In order to put our plants in. Something that I thought about was trying to get a color that you guys are all drawn to in logo and branding. I thought in the logo and branding, you guys lean towards, I'm seeing different colored vests, but was a blue, like the dark royal blue is what I've seen. So if you guys were to maybe lean onto a color as we continue to maybe come and ask for more potted plants from the municipality, we would look at for the municipality purchase, how long have these potted plants been, or the pots themselves been on the market? Have they been available for 5 years? Have they been available for 1 year? If we're buying a pot for these plants, we should have longevity, that we could look at their history to say they've been on the market for 10 years, so next year they're gonna be available, not available. So if we just go buy some blue pots and then they're not available next year and we need another 6 to put in the community. So that's where my expertise and maybe the club could come and help out in that. And then also have the future to move forward, and the more that we can buy, the better off I think we can do. So we have a huge broad area from stepping stones to South Shore, so, if we had 6 pots, that's nothing in the big picture. And they would be allocated for the most exposure in order to get the most feedback that will go back into the community. Next, the planters, I kind of segued between the two, so yeah, so 2 of the potted plants would be here, and then we would ask that if we can get a few more potted plants, and then the locations that we put up here, we're not suggesting those are the only locations. The officer that was here, I could ask him if maybe there was some accidents that could be involved with these potted plants. But definitely, McPherson and Corbeil, like way on the corner by the dump. I don't know if it's a really good spot, but just trying to get them into maybe common goal area where there's maybe people are coming together, maybe Big Moose Park, right? The boat launch, maybe a couple there. These are just quick ideas that we all kind of brainstormed and came up with, but we're open to the ideas where you think the best opportunities are. So the pots, we would do the plantings and everything in the pots. You guys would hopefully supply the pots. We are not going to talk about the South Shore. That's we'll talk about that next year, right? For years to come. But I understand we would be the people that you guys would hopefully come and ask for our expertise on developing, some green space there for the municipality. Hopefully you'll do that. And that brings a modest budget of 9,000, and we're going to put in 7,000 of the hard-earned dollars that our volunteers did their fundraising. So, if there's any more money than that, I would appreciate it. I think that we could do a lot with this. We are giving back to our seniors. On the past note that seniors typically are the ones that are taking part in this horticultural club. And to try and get the youth out, that's very difficult. But we have the seniors villa We're gonna try and get some more of them to take part in it. It's a way to give back to the community. So if you're talking about events in the summer to, you know, shuffleboard, maybe if we had more potted plants and we use the villa and put some at the corner of the road, maybe we can get them to come out and have more education, training, also interactive. Like when people come to our one meeting a month, we have a social gathering of a couple hours and lots of feedback. And it's fun with our plan, our program that we do. We get a lot of reinforcement from all the members are saying, wow, this is cool what we have. So, our agenda or basically our plan for the year, in our program, we have, I didn't actually go through this very well. I didn't think I'd have to present on this level, but we're open April till October, and we have, this is a tentative, what we're gonna be doing workshops on a monthly basis. Our goal is to do different fundraisers. There's something that's in the works right now. We're looking at a harvest dinner, where we bring all the different communities, what is it, Cruz, they have a Cruz farm where they have chickens and stuff there, and we also have, try to remember down the road, right? There's the vegetation there. Mulligan, I know Jerry Mulligan, Molly's farm, that's it. So maybe we could get, you know, some products from them, we pull together a nice harvest dinner instead of the spaghetti dinner where we won. It was debatable, but the Champagne family kind of does have a pull in the community. So there's still bad blood there. So this will run on a different level, but I think it offers something for the community to come in to as a group. And we can make it an annual event that we're giving back to our community through vegetation and beautification. Throughout the year, we're bringing in guest speakers. I don't see anything else. If you guys would take a couple minutes to read that comes to mind that I need to. The big one is the dinner that we would like to propose, and throughout we're going to have different guest speakers if they're able. Also, you know, there's a couple bee farmers that's local in the area. They might do presentations, and like I said, this is a tentative list, so if there's anything on there you don't like, make sure it's not included in this presentation. If there's something you love, well, that's absolutely what I was talking about. So,
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if there's anything else to say.
That's very good. Thank you, Mr. Vincent. We'll now open it up to comments and questions. Councillor Champagne.
Part of this, there's still some ladies left from the original group that started, so we all heard.
There's
a couple.
It's all right.
And Howard is very present.
Still present.
Very much so.
I just want to make sure that at some point, thank you for taking them over and doing what you're doing, but just make sure that they're recognized somehow.
Oh, they were well recognized for what they did.
Yeah. There's something put up or what it is.
Municipality did that. I've been very open and warm to having Howard. Catherine, she was our VP. Then she asked that she stood down because she's actually would like to take a breather, but she's a big part of the workforce. But she was the VP for a few months. And
That's why I make sure that they're all recognized and,
oh yeah,
and thank you for stepping up. And, yeah, but this is something it's got to go to budget, right?
Right, so the purpose of this evening is to receive it and ask questions or comments and see if there's anything you like, don't like. To your point, well said. Okay.
it has to go to budget, but if there's anything that the budget could do, that would be greatly appreciated. And I think it's a long time coming. I think it's been something that should be already in our community and it's not been. And we're also gonna be a charitable donation if everything goes through, charitable status, I mean. So we've sent our designation in. It's just a matter of.
And Councillor Kelly?
Once again, James, thanks for the presentation. And I'm not being corny, but the beautification of our municipality, extremely visual, and it's appreciated by almost everyone that I've talked to. You did a real nice job at the top of Hotel Hill. That's a number of years ago. And the fresh part looks much better for what you've done there. The Centennial, everyone's very proud of them. So my thoughts are, and I think this is doable, but that's not my place to say. It'll come up at budget time, but I personally, I'm for the beautification of our municipality. We're growing leaps and bounds. And we don't have a downtown.
Correct.
But this, it does make a difference and it's extremely inviting when you see it. So.
I'll just say at the Fresh Mart, that hillside garden, that was done also for sightlines. So before we did the garden in there, the hill had a big mound in it.
Right.
So we took the mound down, so when people were backing out. So it's not only beautification, there was a practicality to it to make sure when people were backing out sightlines. And the garden that we put in was to make sure that it wasn't inhibited either.
Yeah.
So when we're doing our gardens, I think more thought is put into it than was maybe visually stimulating, but no, there's a lot more to it than just the actual garden.
Yeah, because that hill's always been a problem because it's quite a dip. When you're at the top, you had trouble seeing down.
Right, if you park in the last few spots, we're not gonna be blind.
Exactly.
So it's better than it was.
Yeah, no question. No. Good presentation. Thank you.
Any further comments?
Oh, good presentation. Thank you.
Personally, I just wanted to mention how, in there is the idea too of a sketch to tie in Memorial Park with our municipal office. I think that was always the vision when you had first planned to have a municipal office here and you built, the Senate House was built at the time. So how do we connect it? Because I found when we had recent events like on Remembrance Day, we climbed down that hill. And so we need to have somehow a staircase in the front so that we tie in both together. So I think that's a good item to have and I know you've always encouraged the Memorial Park to be thinking about that. So to bring it forward in this plan, I think is very smart. And first step, anyway, many steps and it's, so thank you very much.
Green landscaping install stairs. I've heard. I think they're a local company too. It's a nice little stair. Thank you.
Yes,
It's okay. You guys what?
Thank you both. Good evening.
Nice day. It was good.
Okay, so now we come, before we move on, okay? Community reports. Public Works, hold on. Public Works, any comments?
Well, the only thing, we got a tender opening, but I don't think we're gonna, Antoine's still looking into it, so it'll be a decision by the next meeting, I believe, right?
The recommendation report will come to the next meeting.
Emergency management, none. Fire emergency, there's none.
If I may speak to emergency management, we found out today that we were not successful
Oh,
for our
no.
community emergency preparedness grant.
Oh, that's
So
disappointing.
you'll see it official letter on the next council agenda, but I thought I'd share that with you today.
Okay,
Our CMC and our fire chief and everyone's aware that we did not get the grant.
okay, we have to try, these grants.
Oh, sure.
Exactly, maybe it will serve us, just like this evening, as I was listening to Mr. Morfin, it reminded me how we have worked on grants before for the Curly Club. Now the information comes handy for the groups that they need to prepare, so it will serve us. Planning advisory,
Let's say why we didn't get the grant.
No, not necessarily, but if you give me all of 2 seconds here.
Just be interesting to know what's successful and what is not successful, right?
They don't tend to tell you, a lot of times they're oversubscribed, the funds.
Okay.
Sorry.
And we can discuss it at the next meeting. That's fine.
New streetcar in Toronto. was tight.
So after an evaluation by multiple reviewers, we regret to inform you that your organization was not selected to receive funding through the CEPG program. Not all applicants received funding from the program, which was a competitive merit-based process. Please note grant applications are no longer being accepted, yada, yada. So there's no appeals or reconsideration process as part of the program. Thank you for your ongoing leadership. So on.
Thanks.
Very short, straightforward letter, template letter.
It says no.
Planning advisory?
Nothing on planning. We had planning adjustment. I think it was self-explanatory, pretty straightforward, went quickly.
Recreation, parks and culture, it wasn't meeting either, and but right now, it's important to mention that for the volunteer recognition program, the applications are now open, right, until March, I believe, is that correct? March 15th for volunteer recognition, I don't know, it's in March 15th, do you remember that?
I don't have the date offhand, but volunteer recognition is open right now.
It's open right now, so that's important for anyone that wants to submit a name of a volunteer to recognize. The intention is to recognize our volunteers that are nominated in April, but it can also go to September based on. Thank you. So March 15th, so 2 weeks for any volunteers that you think should be recognized. That brings us to Economic Development Committee. Did you want to touch on that, the Deputy Mayor Raffers?
We did not have a meeting in January, which we were supposed to, but there was several conflicts with scheduling. So we're meeting in March 21st. And when I put out the notice, John O'Rourke put in his resignation saying, so the letter is there. I wrote back saying, thank you for contributing and yes.
All right, comment?
Wait, Councilor Jean-Pierre.
I'm reading his letter. And I'm kind of reading between the lines at the end, or am I crazy here? I'm very much a proud resident of East Ferris. I hope one day soon I can find a position to serve the township like my previous role of the planning board and committee. Is that kind of hinting that he may go back to planning if we had an opening?
Assume it. I mean, he never applied for the vacancy.
Looking.
So, yeah, we have no vacancies at the moment.
Oh, you know?
Well, we have one that's pending, there's a strike committee meeting today, but yeah, we don't really have any.
Because this is kind of saying he still wants to be involved somehow, so that's what I'm getting at. So, and he's been involved in our municipality for a lot of years, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He was a volunteer firefighter for a lot of years as well. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's for sure.
Our striking committee just had a meeting this evening and the recommendation will come to council at our next meeting. That brings us to the boards, library board.
No, we're meeting next week, so.
Police services board. It's going to be Ireland and, but we are in training next week as we prepare for the transition to the new youth services board with Chisholm and Bonfield. And I also understand that our CAO and our clerk have met with Bonfield and Chisholm to prepare for the transition in our new board. And thinking about our name, for example, and how we'll be organized. So some of that will be coming back to council in the future. So basically, a transition. I should mention that the public appointment, Phil Champagne is a public appointment and for our board currently. And as part of this process, the government resubmitted the position. And so that is in the process as well. If you see it posted, it's part of this particular process. It may be that Mr. Champagne does not put his name forward again. So that will be something that is a new police services board. It will not be community specific. So there's two positions that are public appointees on our new board. Currently Bonfield as well has submitted a name and is trying to seek the approval for that person's public appointment. So something that we have been in contact and following closely to make sure that we put names for our community. Castle Hill DSAB Health Unit, North Big Iowa Conservation Authority.
I have a meeting tomorrow night with the health unit.
Okay.
I'm meeting with DSEC tomorrow afternoon. It's an all-day meeting. It goes from 12 to about 4:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'll be addressing that on number E in correspondence.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Okay.
And I think you have class at home, the levy that's in our package this evening as well. Very comfortable. Okay, departmental reports and resolutions, boards and committees policy amendment. So that's, basically, yes,
So we were going over the boards and committee policy and for the terms of reference for the striking committee. The way it was worded, when we had the meetings to fill vacancies, there could be 3 members of council at the striking committee meeting, and that would be a quorum of council.
Yeah.
So we're just amending it. So there wouldn't be a quorum of council, so that we're following all the rules and regulations properly. So I can put them, or I have a
So the
move.
only amendments is to page 8, which is striking committee. There's no other amendments to the policy.
you want to table that resolution?
Yeah, and then
now?
I'll read it. Mover and seconder, Councillor Champagne and Councillor Kelly. Whereas Council of the Municipality of East Ferris approved the boards and committees policy on November 8th, 2022 by resolution number 2022-285. And whereas amendment to the committee composition within the terms of reference for the striking committee is required to ensure that a quorum of council is not present at any meeting of the striking committee. Be it hereby resolved that Council for the Municipality of East Ferris approve an amendment to the committee composition within the terms of reference for the striking committee and the boards and committees policy as follows. Committee composition, when filling positions for new term of council, mayor, deputy mayor, chief administrative officer, and the director of community services. And when filling vacancies within the term of council, mayor, chief administrative officer, director of community services, and the chair of the board or committee with the vacancy.
Comments or questions before we vote? We vote. All in favor? Well, carried. Thank you so much. And we move to number B, verbal report. I think,
Thank you, Mayor Rochford. So this item, I just want to do a quick verbal update to council and seek a bit of direction on how to proceed. This is following up on an item that came to council last August, the first meeting in August last year. We received a request from the property owner at 377 Astorville Road. Basically what the situation is their property, when they purchased it, they saw it up in a survey. And their lawyer advised that their property line extended well out into Astorville Road. So the request that they made of us was that we take on the work required to basically acquire that section of their property that would match the standard road allowance for road allowance width. They didn't ask any money for it. They didn't want to, us to purchase it from them. They simply wanted to absolve themselves of any potential responsibility or liability associated with the property that the road was on. So we spoke about that. So Antoine and I had a couple discussions. In a perfect world, we would own all of our sections of road allowance. There's a lot of situations where we don't, and there's no obligation for us to own them. And, forest roads exist in the municipality, we know that. But the more we started talking about it, the more we realized that this is definitely not an isolated case. Even within the kilometer of this section, there's 5, 6, maybe 10 similar cases where there's small sections of road allowance or small sections of property that extend out to the roadway. So what I wanted to do tonight was, well, update you on the conversation that we had internally about this, because we do want to respond to the resident. So we want to get back to them and B, ask for a bit of direction going forward. Our thought was that it would make sense to maybe push this to budget either this year or possibly in 2025 and consider whether or not it might be worth doing a more fulsome review of these type of issues within the municipality. The reason why it might make sense to do a larger review is because part of the costs associated with rectifying these issues are doing the legal work, doing the surveying work. And if we're going to do it for one, there's cost savings to be had if you have a survey crew already coming out. You do a bunch of them in a row. So instead of dealing with this on a one-off basis, since there's no urgency and this is a situation we have frequently, we thought it might make sense to just delay a little bit until we see how much money, if any, we have to allocate to these type of projects and see if it makes sense to do a lot of them together.
I don't see a map. I don't see a map anymore, so I don't even know where this property is. What is it? Is it a very large piece of
It's
property?
a small piece of property. It's about 45 meters frontage, I believe. They didn't include a map, but it's just if you're coming up from the Barron's building up around the corner, it's maybe 200-300 meters past the curve. It's about where the snowmobile trail goes across to Black Road.
Okay,
It doesn't really affect us in any way right now.
No, so we do have a lot of these situations where our roads cross private property and like I said, we talked to David Germain about this. There's no obligation on the municipality's part to purchase these or not even purchase them, just to acquire them. So it is entirely up to council whether you want to do this. But Antoine and I just thought in talking that if we are going to entertain it, it would probably make sense to see if we do more of them at once.
I think a homeowner's concern would be, are they liable for anything going on? And if they're not liable, then, I mean, a road allowance is road allowance. But I know we've got forest roads that are actually part of Nosvansing Road is a forest road on someone, technically, it's owned by another party. But if they're not responsible for what happens on the road, liability wise, it's, I think, maybe a non-issue. What was the legal opinion, if you don't mind me asking?
So the legal opinion was that we aren't required to purchase these and forest roads have a legal status as a road. The issue is that we don't have the full extent of what a standard 20-meter road allowance width would be. So if we ever needed to be in a situation where we were doing work off of the travel road or we're needing to expand a road for any reason, then we may be somewhat limited in our ability to do that. It's on someone else's property.
Like what ditching?
Just the names like that. Yeah.
So if there's, in my opinion, if there's no downside for the taxpayers, and there's no upside for the municipality, then to me, it's a non-issue. As long as, but as an owner, I would be concerned, am I liable for what goes on the road allowance? And if so, I want, but if I have no control, that'd be my concern.
Mayor Rochford, my understanding is there is liability to a homeowner, whether it's a forest road or not. We've dealt with these in the past on case-by-case basis. My concern is if we just keep saying yes to one, no to another, we're picking and choosing our council list. I think we've got to come forward maybe with even a policy. I'm not saying it's 6 pages long, but how are we going to deal with these as they come forward? Because as Greg mentioned, just in that stretch, there could be 5 or 6.
Exactly.
Your neighbor hears that you just had your purchase done. What happens to the next person? And I think everyone should be treated the same.
Yes.
So I think we've got to come forward with how we're going to deal with these in the future. And maybe the idea is, and Antoine and I have worked in the past, and when we bring budget forward to council, there's money in there where sometimes little things like these are addressed. So one of them one year we said, okay, we got to address the end of Miramichi. It means doing this, a little legal work and all that, but we've been trying to hammer out a couple a year. So I think there should be some money put aside where we address these little things as they come up, but we're not gonna be able to do everybody in 1 year. But I think it becomes tough to say yes to one, not the other, or kind of deal with it differently, I guess I would say. Greg is correct in that a forest road is a forest road. We know that for sure. Yeah, so another thing is if we did come up with a policy, if an owner wants us to take over, I don't think we would ever purchase their land. They want us to take it. So I mean, if that's gonna be us getting the land for free, but at our cost, survey work, legal work, there's a cost already there, right? So we're kind of buying the liability back from them, I mean, or relieving them for a cost, but.
I've went through that a couple of times on my properties here when I started. The lines weren't straight, but at the time of the severance, that's when it gets picked up. Okay, another property so gets picked up, the next one gets picked up, the next one gets picked up.
Yes.
From my understanding, when we purchased land, that or for social, the owner of and it costs. So that happened through this land severance. So the good thing about land severance is the planning act gives you the mechanism to enforce that road allowance expansion. But in these cases where there's just a standalone property, there's no mechanism for the municipality to compel a property owner to go through the process to allow us to acquire it. So that's the difference.
But I think council would all agree that it would be good to first have a policy. I think that that's an excellent. And I think we also agree that we would not, the idea is not to afford one budget, but purchase these properties and so would we have, is that a good statement that we would agree?
Just I haven't said that, but you've got other properties where people want big money for something that's really, our road allowance goes through it. Are we setting a precedence here?
Well, that's why I would like to see a policy. So we can't be pointed at, or council can't be pointed at that you did it for one, not the other, and what happened here, you said no to buying my land. It's best to just have a policy in place, and this is how it's done, right?
Should have a separate meeting for this.
I think so, yeah.
So, well, a policy coming forward to council is a separate meeting, it's the time of that to look at the policy, make a decision.
But allow you to look at all the issues, bring it forward for council to examine.
And because it's a real estate, and there's people involved, we should be going in camera.
That's correct. I'll give you, we will be coming back to council. I'm not sure when, maybe in April, but we're dealing with another situation like that. So when it's a forced road, you own the traveled piece. You do not own shoulders. That's where our issue becomes.
Yes,
So then if we go to fix that road and we're on the shoulder and we have a residence that get off my property, we are on their property. We don't own those shoulders.
got it.
We own the traveled piece. And that's where it becomes a problem.
So we've got to
We're
resolve
only
this.
trying to deal with a resident right now that will come to council in the future.
This side of the road or the ditch. So
And if they run it along a road where it's a forest road, we don't own it. They're now digging on someone else's property to run a line. There's gonna be an issue. Nosnell and Lake Nosnell Road is the one I'm speaking to right now.
Yeah, we gotta get this settled.
Yeah.
Yes, we need a policy, you're right. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Is there another one that's coming? Resolution. Okay, so sorry, here we go. Resolution for social and economic prosperity review. Do you have that? Did I do it?
Yes. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Roy Akers and Councilor Champagne. Whereas current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining Ontario's economic prosperity and quality of life, and whereas nearly a third of municipal spending in Ontario is for services in areas of provincial responsibility, and expenditures are outpacing provincial contributions by nearly $4 billion a year. And whereas municipal revenues such as property taxes do not grow with the economy or inflation. And whereas unprecedented population and housing growth will require significant investments in municipal infrastructure. And whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, supporting asylum seekers and addressing the mental health and addictions crisis. And whereas inflation, rising interest rates, and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity. And whereas property taxpayers, including people on fixed incomes and small businesses, can't afford to subsidize income redistribution programs for those most in need. And whereas the province can and should invest more in the prosperity of communities. And whereas municipalities and the provincial government have strong history of collaboration. Therefore, be it resolved that the province of Ontario commit to undertaking with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review to promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. And further, that a copy of this motion be sent to the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Paul Calandra, Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities.
Any comments? We should add our own MVP as well to the distribution. All in favor? All carries. Thank you so much. Excellent. Bylaws, I think that is sort of, I see the first one is yours. for municipal law enforcement officer.
Bylaw.
Yes, that is correct. Wait,
Yeah, so,
thank you. Good eyes.
at first, this was coming in the weekly report at the end of this week to let you guys know, and then I realized going through the agenda today, it was for an appointment at this meeting. So Mike Bouchard was the successful candidate to fill the bylaw enforcement fire prevention officer position. He starts on Monday. So this isn't a bylaw to appoint him as a municipal law enforcement officer. It's just standard that we do this. And then there's a part of this bylaw is to repeal a bylaw where we've got Paul as a municipal law enforcement officer. Paul and Ted Breed are both municipal law enforcement officers right now. We were gonna leave Ted Breed as backup to Mike Bouchard, being everyone takes vacation. So the idea would be that Ted Breed stays on and bylaw enforcement officer
I don't know if I can ask this question, but is this under contract? Is it a full-time position, part-time
position.
full-time position? No, I just didn't know what.
Yeah, what I will do in the weekly report though is just give you a little bit of background on your, kind of Mike's background and his years of service and what he's bringing to the table for East Ferris. For council's info, I think I might have put this in the weekly report already, but we had over 60 people apply for the position. We narrowed it down to 5. And out of the 5, 3 stood out the most is what it came down to. And Mike's local. Mike lives in the community. He's currently a volunteer firefighter on our department. He was in the past as well, I believe, for a couple of years. And now he's been on since January of 2022. So a little over 2 years back in our department. Former deputy fire chief, city of North Bay. So, yeah. And I mean, Mike's got background as well in health and safety. And one direction we want to be going is to get a joint health and safety committee going. We're at the time with the number of staff we have to go in that direction. So Mike reached out and said he heard that and would like to assist us in moving ahead with health and safety and getting it going. So yeah, we're looking forward to having him start on Monday and finally having a dedicated bylaw enforcement officer, fire prevention officer in East Ferris. So
Got some addresses for him.
And we'll concede that paper.
Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Champagne, Deputy Mayor Rogers. Whereas Council of the Municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to appoint a municipal law enforcement officer be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2024-08. And that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Just a quick question. Is it correct to say municipal law enforcement officer or is it municipal bylaw enforcement officer?
So the official is a municipal law enforcement officer, an LEO.
All in favor?
We've also got an MLEO, like a municipal law enforcement policy in the municipality. Yeah, the official title is that. There's actually an association as well, but he's our bylaw enforcement officer, fire prevention officer. Yeah.
But from a council perspective, we really appreciate the 60 people who applied.
Whatever.
That allowed us to get some great candidates. That's just wonderful. And I suspect there's a number of people from our community that applied. And I think that's, thank you very much, I guess, to all of those people that did apply. And as well, you like to do all that process, that was a lengthy process. For sure.
Yeah, myself and Greg and our fire chief Steph did all the interviews. Yeah.
There's no, it's very lot. We voted.
Yes.
Well done. Okay. Okay, so we're okay to move forward.
Please.
Okay, I hope some information. Yes. Okay, oh, yes. Mr. Coombs, yes, you're back on. There was some points.
I don't see a map on this one either.
There's the bylaw, there's not specifically maps on these. So anyways,
If council wants a map in advance, get a hold of staff. The agenda is released on a Friday.
Yeah.
Meetings are on a Tuesday, because these aren't hard. We don't do maps. Like the letter from Mr. Barry was a letter from him. He didn't provide a map, so I mean,
so.
but we can provide that in advance.
Yeah, we most certainly can. In this case, with regards to the bylaw that's before you, this is follow-up from an item that was before council about a year ago. So usually with the Rhode Island's closures, the initial report to council And at that time when the resolutions passed, we have the map in connection with that. This is essentially just finalizing the process. The council approved in principle last February. So since the resolution was passed last February, the applicants went and got a survey done and we got an appraisal done of the land. So this is a section of road allowance between two properties on just off Durrell Road. So 27 and 23 Durrell and 27 Durrell. So the road allowance is being split between the two properties and they're each acquiring half of it. And it'll be at a purchase price of $15,000 for the total section of road allowance, split between two. And it's split not quite evenly because the way that one was drawn to accommodate a driveway feature means that one property owner is paying $7,950 and the other is paying $7,050. So that's why there's a discrepancy in the split. And the applicants, any questions?
Any comments or questions before we vote?
Well, like this has been done, I guess, already last year, but I'd still like to get a map so to bring. I didn't remember what it was, I didn't ask Councilor Kelly if he knew what it was about, and he had no clue about it. Just nice to have a map in here, so it kind of
Refreshes.
refreshes in memory.
Yeah,
exactly
I remember
what it is.
discussing it, not the map.
So we had all voted in favor of the bylaw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and for the exact location, if you drive down Durrell, it's straight down to the water. So our road bounce went straight down to the water. The issue was there's bedrock in there. It's a cliff.
Yeah.
So if you recall at that time, we said.
It wasn't-
No.
It wasn't an issue for the fire department. They can't get to it anyway, right?
Correct, right? And at that time,
Come back.
yeah, and I believe,
Questions last time?
yeah, so that's what I know I went on site, you were on site.
Yeah.
And it just drops. There's no benefit for us. We're never gonna put a road to the water. And that was the discussion then was the neighbors want to split it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and one thing I could actually add is, this bylaw is basically the legal part that's required for a builder to execute the sale. But Councilor Champagne, one thing we could do, there's nothing wrong with adding a schedule to the bylaw in the future that has a map. So if council thinks it'd be beneficial to have a key map attached to the bylaw, that's certainly something we can work with.
If it's not too much trouble, yes, I agree with that. One question, then this is not used by other local residents for access to the lake?
No.
Okay, it's fine.
It's treed, it's got big rocks
Yeah.
and it drops at the end. It's not a sloping down to the.
Exactly.
That's why the fire department at the time,
Yeah.
are we sure this is 2023 and not 2022?
So the process started maybe even before.
Yes, our previous fire chief Frank Lufin was at the meeting.
Right.
Was asked those questions.
Yep.
And he had attended the site as well, and it's not downward sloping to water. It's almost like a rock cut. Just drops down, right? So.
Yeah, it was just the resolution that was passed last year, but the conversation with the owner started before.
Yes.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, all in favor? Oh, we had ready. I'm so sorry.
Councilor Champagne and Deputy Mayor Akers. Whereas Council of the Municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to close and convey a part of the road allowance and shoreline road allowance adjacent to 23 Durrell Road, described as part of the road allowance between lots 9 and 10, concession 15. Part of original shore road allowance in front thereof, being parts 1 and 3, plan 36R 15100, Township of East Ferris, District of Nipissing, and a part of the road allowance and shoreline road allowance adjacent to 27 Durrell Road, described as part of the road allowance between lots 9 and 10, concession 15. And part of the original shore road allowance in front thereof, being parts 2 and 4, plan 36R 15100, Township of East Ferris, District of Nipissing. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed a number 2024-09, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
All in favor? Well carried, thank you so much, and as well, the direction and for future bylaws, there'll be a map attached.
Yes.
Our memories, we have good memories here, but still, it's good.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want us to see, it's here. If you want to check it out, Council Champagne. But this is the end of Durrell Road. So there's Durrell Road. We have the road allowance to the water.
So it was 66 feet split in half then, is that what it was?
It's not quite, like Greg had mentioned, there's a bit of a deviation because of one of their
Okay, so the
driveways.
or 3 feet.
But if you put the aerial on, you can see that it just drops.
Thank you.
We move to correspondence and information items and Deputy Mayor Rui Akers.
You just have to remember, when you get our age, you don't remember everything.
No, that's why I said we have good memories.
That's true. Thanks for including me.
It's the topic of the day.
The city of Timmins, I've responded to it. I don't think it has to be moved forward, so. And then I think Councillor Kelly had talked about E, that was the only, that was one. I guess F, do we have to talk about that in budget? Is that a budget item or?
It's an item for this evening, the tournament that they're referring to, which is coming up before, I think, our budget deliberations, so.
Yeah. That's simple. They mentioned the tournament. They don't put a date though, and they also want us, or municipality to be a major sponsor. They don't put a dollar value. I'm not quite sure what the ask is in the letter.
So we're not finished up to understand. Okay, so basically what they're looking for is, we as municipality are very, we have excellent rates for the hockey league, for the community center. We have, we also provide the kitchen facility or the snack bar facility, the upstairs. Also, we provide concessions that are monetary, that benefit the East Nipissing Mine Department. And so, but we're not a sponsor, so we don't show up anywhere as a sponsor to that league. And it's an important league in our municipality. I'm very glad when they did put up a sign inside that Spirit Community Center that shows that this is their home arena. So I guess what they're looking to see is that we are associated, so they can put our logo, municipal logo on their website, that we be more prominent as a community supporting their efforts. And so basically they're saying this major tournament is the Mr. Sloan, I forget if it's the Sloan.
Yeah, Curtis Scholl.
Curtis Sloan, the hockey tournament that's in March, I think March 2nd is the thing.
This weekend then.
And so, that, in a sense, it would be our fundraiser, that's their, I may have the date wrong, I apologize.
No.
And we can- So their major tournament, it's a big tournament for them, there's a lot of teams that come for that tournament, so they're saying it was $500 that this. Yeah. So with that, I don't know if that was the first item we should discuss, you had first the city of, but is there anything else?
Well, city of Timmins, I don't think needs to be brought forward. I just responded it
That
to it myself, yeah.
Excellent.
Right. But I was confused with everyone else as the timing, and was this a budget issue or is this, so the F?
You have quite a bit to leave.
$500 to take this.
So sorry, to have one discussion.
So is this, do we have money in the budget for $500 for a sponsorship?
To see, also we asked for, our trip. Okay, so it's basically before we.
We've had other groups and people come to ask and we've said no. So how do you justify? No, maybe in lieu of something, but as far as monetary, I don't think we should. That's just my feeling.
So so basically when we've given for, the curling club or, other groups that have fundraisers, we've given a reduction in any rates they have. Is that what you're suggesting on calendar here?
Yes,
It's, so we would do a reduction in our fee,
They are.
but could it be a further reduction for something that we provide?
How far
Is that
down?
what you're suggesting?
Well, I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying there's it's kind of hard to get monetary because we say no to how people come and see us.
Which,
Just very hard.
If I may, council, every year we seem to get some kind of letter from minor hockey. If we go back years, We didn't put a logo on the ice. We now pay to have their logo put on our ice. We paid for a sign on the outside of the building. They've got reduced rates. Every year it seems to be, we hear that our rates aren't low enough, but they're lower than surrounding communities, and minor hockey gets a preferred rate. We give out the concession stand, as Mayor Rochford said, free for them to make money. They pay about $150 a year for a full office in the facility. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is, it'd be nice if they sat down before their season started, and what are the asks this year? Or what, how can we support you? Versus coming within the year and it started and complaining about rates and that, which we know they get a preferential rate, right? So not that, and I don't think it's not me as a staff member doesn't want to support them, but you're coming in March, basically, for reductions, right?
You know, in the past, as a business owner, they used to come and see me for the sponsor for the end of the year. I give them $1,000.
Yeah.
And that was part of the term. So they should be looking long before this. Like, I know they're volunteers and everything else, and they're looking for an opportunity, but we give a lot to minor hockey right now and other groups. So I'm just saying, it's kind of hard for us to do this.
I have to agree, and Rick and I served together on the Parks and Rec Committee for a number of years, and there was a couple of times that they were really up against it. We bent over, community bent over backwards to assist, the same as the curling club at one time. So, and we do give in kind, because then we give year round, because it's a reduction in rates. It's substantial compared to what some of the other leagues pay. And the concession alone, whether you run it or not, it's a freebie.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
And it's an open-ended letter. It's kind of hard to see what they're asking for.
Well,
I know the volunteers.
in council's budget, though, there are funds set aside as donations to community groups. I mean, we know that.
We used to get money from other municipalities at one time, from Chisholm and Calgary for these tournaments. Now they stopped doing it completely. So basically, we're on our own, right?
Like, I would think if council goes in the direction of supporting them tonight for future asks, I think we need to have a meeting. I've mentioned this a few times, and Greg and I have spoke about this. We need to have a meeting with Minor Hawk before the season starts. And how can we support you, right? It can't be throughout the year, like things are not going well, can we have money? I feel like it's almost like a trigger decision every time, right? And this has come up before. I mean, I would say it to George and Minor Hockey Association. They've come halfway through a year, and can we, I think it's best at the start of the season, say, how can we support you? They are a major, I don't want to say tenant, but without minor hockey, there's no big money to operate an arena. Would we need the arena? Right? But I think there's a better way of having a better partnership with them.
We have a symbiotic relationship, but at the same time, it would be nice to put the cards on the table at the start of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easier for them to plan their season as well when they know already what they're getting or what they're facing, right? Versus March, and the season's kind of done. I mean, this is a sponsorship for the tournament, so a little different. They don't mention rates and things like that. But we have seen, I think within the year, another letter from Stacy or an email that was asking for preferential rates and this and that and that. When I read the letter, I'm thinking you do get preferential rate, almost like they didn't seem to know what we were already doing, right? So, yeah, my 2 cents, I guess.
But personally, I would love to see the municipal logo on my website. I would love to see a logo when they promote different tournaments. I mean, it's incredible the amount of people that are drawn to these tournaments, what they bring in. And I mean, so to your point, it's a very important organization to our community, very valued. There's a high level of participation, and it's all volunteer based. And so, and then to your point, you give a lot, but I don't find that recognition comes through. And so basically, if that's, at the beginning of the year, I don't read this as a negative. I read this as they would like to see, they would like the strength of the municipality with them and to be able to visually show it. And that is, if that's how I interpret it, and personally, I think that would be great for the municipality. I really liked, for example, when we sent out our thank you for the Carnival Committee, we wrote something in Facebook and we said that the municipality of East Ferris looks forward to working with the carnival committee in the future, to work with our community organizations hand in hand, I think only speaks very highly of the municipality and is very valued and appreciated by citizens. And so however we do that at the beginning of the year, that would be a
Well, so is it something similar to the road allowances? That there should be a policy, because if we're uneven in what we're doing. It's, I don't want to create more work, but it's kind of like if somebody says, comes to us, and it's council by council, like, I mean, so I don't know, should there
So
be a donation?
if I may, Mary, Deputy Mayor, I had come back a few terms back, Bill Raybosch was mayor at that time for a donation policy, and there seemed to not be an appetite, which is fine if you want to deal with things as one-offs, right? But I know other municipalities, like just say Callender has one, where all the requests are due by a certain time of the year. And then they look at how much money they have available, and what the requests are, and they make decisions based on that. But if the requests come in by a certain deadline, then you know what you're facing, and the deadline should be before your budget's passed. Right, so if you ask for all of the requests to be in, I don't know, the first week of January or by the end of January, well, now we're getting into budget, we can kind of look at those requests and know what it is, right? But it's a program, you apply to it annually, you say this is the event we're having, or, you know, so we could have a policy, but do we want a policy for everything as well? That's council's decision, right?
we had left it over.
Are they using the kitchen upstairs and all that?
Yes,
So we're not charging for the kitchen.
They will use it for tournament weekends. I believe they are paying for the kitchen.
we get a reduced rate.
They get a reduced rate for tournament weekends.
Yeah.
Cause I know in the past we've done that.
I'll be honest with council, the only thing that we've strayed away from, I guess, a bit is the concession. We were giving it a free.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something we came to council with, but it was, I think, more of a pilot thing. They were trying it out, like, can we make a go of this? We know in the past concession, it's very hard to find anyone to run the concession. There's no money to be made because they have staff to pay or they're working themselves. So maybe that's something we talked to the minor hockey about, is on a go forward, run the concession. Don't charge them. That's your, concession, make some money from it, right? So, but that's how we've been doing the one-offs when they want to use.
Run the concession, what
Yes,
happened,
we did for years.
the parents put their time in.
Yep.
And then they would take money off for the kids playing hockey.
I do know that recently I did work and I worked the snack bar, and a number of people said, how nice to see an arena with the concession.
Yes.
Oh,
And because that's no longer the case, and people appreciate it. And then on that note, I moved that one, and I didn't suggest a donation policy. Instead, what we had done is approve the budget, right? And then left it because we don't know what comes forward in the year, and that's how we approached it. It's not a large amount, it's a,
$2,000.
that was a budget. So when we come to budget, we could look at that and say, do we want to guide it into policy or leave it open as it is and leave the amount? Go ahead.
one question, are they paying for the concession this weekend? This coming weekend?
No, so what we've done is, since we haven't had an operator for the concession, we've allowed Meyer Hockey to use it free of charge for their tournaments.
So we're donating over here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I would suggest then that next year, because I mean, volunteers change as according, your children move out of minor hockey, go on somewhere else. I would suggest they're a bigger shoes. And it is, as I say, it's to be a relationship. So why don't I think the council, we should endeavor to meet with them at the end of August, first meeting of September, meet with their executives and say, here's the deal. Here's what we've got for you. Here's the break you're getting. Is there anything else we can do to assist you in your operation?
Would we invite them to council meeting? That's what you're
That's what I'm recommending.
We met with them and discussed.
Or go through the Parks and Rec committee?
Either or.
No, I find it such an important organization.
It is.
I would bring it to council.
Yeah.
And
And we're talking over $100,000 of ice too.
yes, exactly.
And it's been that way for a long time. It's up there.
Yeah.
So they're our biggest user. Without them, you're right. It'd be hard to justify, because arenas in Northern Ontario don't make money, let's face it, so.
But in the future, if the arena in North Bay is full, that's a brand new arena that's going to be not far from ours. solidify our relationship so that this is the home of the vipers.
Yeah, it's identity,
Eh?
identity.
Yes, exactly, that identity, and I know I said it at our Hall of Fame, I don't know why I would call the Vipers, but it is the name, and to make that a brand that we're proud of, and that we promote even as a municipality to that extent. Like to the Italians in North Bay, I find that there's that relationship there.
On that basis, do we have any of our pins or anything like that available that we could have for giveaways?
Did you say pens or pins?
Pins.
I believe we still have pins. I believe so.
Okay, we make some available just at the concession stand, take a pin.
Yeah. I know at one time we had a bowl, I think at our front desk. I don't think we went through the bowl. They were all from the Centennial. The pins, right?
Okay. Right, no, it's just a thought, just to promote. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, but this has been a great discussion, so thank you for bringing it.
No, it's good.
And we will look to having this brought forward to council in August for discussion. So, yeah, anything else?
I was just gonna say, I was a lovely letter about the bursary.
Saying thank you.
Yeah, for the bursary for the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. And then I,
Want a little more info on that?
sure,
So I'll be honest, I called and say, why don't we get a letter like this every year and it's not dispersed every year? So years ago, before my time here, council put money into the medical school, $7,300. At one time, there was an ask to grow that to 10,000, so there was an endowment of 10,000. I guess council decided no. Anyway, there's 7,300. The only thing that gets dispersed is interest. That's made, right? But then there's also criteria for the bursary. So there could be someone in a year that graduates that doesn't fit the criteria. So then our funds are not dispersed.
Okay,
So what I've asked for is a copy. We have a signed agreement with this medical school. I've asked for a copy of it. I'm sure we can find it with our bylaw. But this is more than 10 years ago, right? So I've asked for a copy of it to see what that criteria is. And I did get an endowment report. So she said, well, we emailed you an annual report. I never received it. Our address changed since we moved. We were still getting mail forwarded. So long story short, they have a new address. So we should get an endowment fund every year. I will circulate what they've sent me because there's nice stats on it for council.
okay.
Like how many graduates there's been since the school's opened and things like that, whether they're French, they're English. But our balance in the capital account, $7,300 is what's at the school. They made an annual interest of about 3.4% in 2023. I thought that was a little low. Well, with rates of where they are now, they're over 5 at some places, but and the closing balance as of April 30th, because that's their fiscal year, there was $1,331 of interest sitting there. How much of that got dispersed to the candidate that we just got a letter from, I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll see once we get an endowment report next year, but it's always closes on April. And then they do it for graduation, I think by end of the year, December. So that's why we're getting a letter now.
Okay.
But I will circulate this because there's other information. Yeah,
Future doctors for yourself.
yes.
And very good, that's a excellent report, thank you. Great.
I just have someone say thank you.
Really, it's nice to have someone.
Yes.
so last one would be J, but I
I think Mr. Bird wants to finish off. Do you want to finish on it now?
Sure.
I don't think there's anything left, is there?
there's lots left for you.
Well, there's the alphabet, but one here.
I left E, guys. It's a good one.
So with regards to item J and correspondence, so this letter from Crystal at Ballin Partners. This is an item that I would suggest that we actually defer until the first meeting in March. The reason being is the property owner, he wants to do a delegation to council. To just give a bit of additional context on top of Mr. Crystal's letter. Just to really quickly touch base on it, there were severances done on this property in 2003. And at the time, the retained land from the severance was attached to another property by restrictive covenant. And that was done to satisfy a condition of severance. And for various reasons since then, the property owner is asking that covenant be removed. I think it would be helpful to hear the delegation from the property owner And I can prepare a report for the next council meeting, with maps and background information and just a little more for this file.
That's it, all, that's great.
I think that would be best.
Thank you.
All right, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So on that note, then we move to, Councilor Kelly.
I just had Children's Aid Society. And we're all for everything I admire everything the Children's Aid Society does. But there's so many initiatives in North Bay right now. There's something over 20 odd establishments, government sponsored by the taxpayers, quite frankly, that deal with a host of issues. And I wouldn't want to think this is piggybacking on another already established justification for it. I don't know. So I'd like to investigate a little further. I haven't investigated, just to make sure we're not duplicating efforts in another area. That's all I'm thinking. I know there's one, I've got a phenomenal meeting coming up, March the 15th. And I have a good relationship with some of the senior people in Algoma, so I'll check it out and see what it's about up there, and I'll come back to council with a report. Okay,
Is that all right, Council?
everybody is in agreement with that? Because I'm just saying, the last I heard at DCAB, there was something over 26 different entities involved in this, with the same goals concerning opioid, homeless, and so forth, and mental health. So it's an ongoing problem. The problem is every time there's a new entity, they have administration, they have a board, there's extra costs involved. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
That's all.
So everything else is gone, actually.
Thank you. Councilor Chopin.
I'll try H and I'll go to K after.
I'll put it in the approach. Read our delegation.
Should we try not get deal? The railway tracks are getting so bad, and between the railway tracks and Highway 17, they're rutting now, the asphalt's starting to peel off now, so.
Okay, may I suggest that would be a great, I would agree as well, especially, assuming we go forward with our, active transportation plan for McPherson and Centennial, we had gone there to, you may recall, and we asked as well for looking at fixing, adding lights, additional lights for pedestrian traffic, widening the road from the corner into Corbeil. And then we put this as well, add in there, the additional work.
Because when we talked to them last time, remember they said they weren't snow plowing intersections, now they're doing them now, which is a good thing. But this section of road is really getting bad. I know it's Highway 94, but that's up all over the MTO, so.
So, okay, we agree on it. That's a great one. Thank you. Anything else that comes to mind? Well, let's talk about delegations first before we move from there, from this topic. Any other delegations that we should have?
We talked about something else. What was it? Jason, you remember what we talked about? It was a couple of months ago. We said it'd be a good one for delegations. I can't remember what it is now.
Yeah,
Well, if we're talking about MTO, when I was biking around the community, it's near, and I have to go back. It's near the Nipissing Manor. There's a rock that sticks out and it blocks,
Well, that's the maintenance, yeah.
right,
When we're talking the MTO, we're looking at major road work is what we're talking.
right, but it wouldn't a rock,
Safety issue. on
Right.
94.
yeah. It was near a place that ran sort of a haunted house.
yes.
Yeah, we know, yes, I know.
Do you know that? And so he was mentioning it. And
When we go by, we'll pin it.
That could be something we contact MTO ourselves, like Altoan through. You guys have to fix, Fowler.
This is.
Yeah.
okay.
Another thing too, would we see it right now or do we have to wait till, I don't wanna say spring, because we are in
Oh, no, you can see
spring.
it. It's the bull rock. yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a motorcycle season starts.
So what were the issue with this rock? Do we add to public works? That we could-
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I will go by and,
One,
Okay, yeah.
just pin it and off the market, because
Or even have Altoan shoot.
Okay.
that's a show more it is.
Sure, and
Cause he can send it on his phone.
Correct, yeah. And he can contact MTO.
So I guess we, what are the delegations? we had discussed?
Yes, it wasn't Bell.
Well, we certainly have housing, that's going to come forward with the property in Chesterville. Is that infrastructure, Ministry of infrastructure? that we would-
Did it have to do with housing?
I think it did,
10% component?
it was housing.
Yes.
But the 10% component for the province, we're still waiting to hear what the
Yes,
guidelines are. Gee,
It did a big announcement today too, right?
When were these delegations discussed?
I thought I brought it up, I thought council brought it up in the last meeting, knowing everyone was gonna think about what delegations report to this meeting.
And I can't remember what it is, my brain just stumbling.
I don't remember that conversation.
So it is infrastructure for housing, or it could be, could we put that one down, housing? And let's think about,
Well, anyway, without us sitting here looking, thinking about, let's get back to Jason and,
Sure.
okay.
because we got till the eighth.
It'll be in the minutes.
Text that, but-
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Councilor?
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
He's being silly.
Thank you. That's good. Perfect. Did you want to talk about the whole municipal levy? Is that, were there any surprises for you in that levy?
I'm gonna be making a phone call to ask.
Okay.
So the operating levy that we received, I'm not concerned, it's not all that different, I think it's $1,000 difference than last year. But a meeting that I had with Castleholm, there was discussion about the possibility of levying a capital levy. And I don't see any discussion about that, so I'm hopeful that we don't all pass our budgets and we find out in the summer, they need to levy us, because how's that gonna happen? We're not gonna send a second tax bill out to residents. And what do we wanna borrow? Not really either, right? So I'll make a call, so we're aware for budget.
Right.
But I'm just surprised it hasn't come to us yet, because it was summer or fall when I went for my meeting there. When the new CAO took over, right? So,
Yeah, they were talking capital then.
yes.
Okay, but thank you so much. And on that note, we're ready to move forward with action items, approval of correspondence.
Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Champagne and Kelly. The council approved the correspondence and information as circulated with the agenda of February 27th, 2024.
On favor? Devon carried. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we move forward with the resolutions of items we supported at our last meeting. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Champagne, Deputy Mayor Roy-Akers. The council of the municipality of East Ferris supports the resolution received from the city of Stratford, calling upon the federal government to extend the full CEBA program deadline by extending the forgiveness up to 20,000 of the maximum of 60,000 deadline for businesses to coincide with the new repayment deadline of December 31st, 2026.
just a comment on that. I know I brought this forward before. And here we are now. All these little snowmobile clubs, all these mom and pop places are expected to pay everything back. And they basically close down for the season. The timing is terrible to make people pay in January of any year, especially in Northern Ontario. It's almost criminal.
So all in favor?
Yeah.
Double favor, okay? Phenomenal.
Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Roy-Akers, Councillor Kelly. Whereas many municipalities in Ontario have seen an increase to their insurance rates due to joint and several liability. And whereas in 2015, the city of Greater Sudbury entered into a contract with a contractor experience in road construction projects to complete a project on Elgin Street in the city's downtown core. And whereas the contract provided that the contractor would be the constructor for the project as the term is defined in the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And whereas an employee of the constructor operating a grader on the project struck and killed a pedestrian. And whereas the city was charged with offenses under the act as the constructor and the employer. And whereas after being acquitted at trial and on appeal, the Ontario Court of Appeal in a decision issued on April 23rd, 2021, found the city to be liable for contraventions to the construction regulations as an employer, as it employed quality control inspectors to monitor the quality of work on the project from time to time. And whereas the Supreme Court of Canada in a decision issued on November 10th, 2023 was evenly divided 4-4 on the issue, resulting in dismissal of the city's appeal. And whereas the consequences of this decision is that municipalities in Ontario, as well as other owners of property in the province who wish to undertake construction, are subject to being charged and convicted as an employer for offenses in relation to project sites for which they have no control and have, in accordance with the Act, contracted with an entity to assume oversight and authority over the work on such sites of the constructor. And whereas the potential of an owner being charged as an employer, as the term is defined in the Act, in circumstances where it has engaged a constructor, disregards and renders meaningless the owner-constructor provisions contained in the Act, and presents an unacceptable level of increased risk and confusion for owners and contractors throughout the province. And whereas the municipality of East Ferris believes that the safety of workers is paramount, however, the safety of workers on construction projects in Ontario is not increased by placing liabilities on parties that do not have control of and are not responsible for the conduct of work on such sites. Be it hereby resolved, the council for the municipality of East Ferris requests that the province amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer, to exclude owners that have contracted with the constructor for a project. And be it further resolved that this motion be provided to the Honorable Ford, the Premier of Ontario, the Honorable David Sini, Minister of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP. I have to update this with but the MPP, Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, Northern Ontario Large Urban Mayors, Council of Ontario Construction Associations, and all other Ontario municipalities.
Any questions or comments before we vote? An excellent resolution to bring forward. All in favor? Say vote. Thank you so much. The next one is DSAP for the maintaining of funding for issues such as homelessness.
We're in a seconder, please. Councilors Kelly and Champagne. The Council of the Municipality of East Ferris supports the stabilization of the federal government's Reaching Home funding to the District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board as a community entity, and that funding be maintained at minimum at current levels for future fiscal years, and that this resolution be shared with local federal representatives.
And it's perfect. All in favor? Thank you so much. Calvin, please don't get Calvin for provincial national firefighting strategy.
Moving in seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Akers and Councilor Champagne. Council of the Municipality of East Ferris supports the resolution received from the municipality of Calvin, encouraging the federal government to commit additional funds for cost sharing of provincial firefighting and to consider the development of a national strategy of firefighting.
All in favor?
All in favor, wait, thank you. All in favor, and we would really like to thank the Council of Calvin for the work they've done. It's done lots of good work here, and I think it's wonderful that they support this resolution. Prince Edward County.
Over in a seconder, please. Councilor Kelly, Deputy Mayor Akers. The Council of the Municipality of East Ferris supports the resolution received from Prince Edward County regarding support from the province to expand the lifespan of fire apparatus, specifically pertaining to the replacement of fire trucks due to insurance requirements.
All in favor? Again, good resolution. Roma, combining Roma and GRA conferences.
Mover at seconder, please. Councilor Champagne and Kelly. Council for the Municipality of East Ferris supports the resolution received from the town of Petrolia, calling upon both the Roma and OGRA boards to reestablish a combined OGRA and Roma annual conference.
All in
That'd be
favor?
nice to see.
Wait, do we know if the OGRA are actively pursuing this at this point?
Well, they've been in contact, but AMO is a stumbling block right now. Because another conference for them, right?
Oh,
Well, and again, I've said this before, if they wanted 2 conferences. Like we're doing now, why don't we have a combined conference with Roma and AMO at the same time?
mhm, yes,
So if you're not gonna want that,
yeah.
you don't need to do it or leave JRA and Roma to stay together. Which would make more sense because it's for smaller municipalities, right? No, I agree with it. But they've been in talking about it the last couple of years and people still write in and find out what's going on as they talk about it at the conference.
Hmm. Okay, Enrich Gas, I find that one is not so much critical to us, but we have to do for it forward.
Mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Kelly and Mayor Rikers. Council of Municipality of East Ferris supports the letter received from Enbridge Gas regarding concerns with the Ontario Energy Board's decision on phase 1 of the Enbridge Gas 2024 rebasing application.
All in favor? The bond? Approval of accounts payable.
Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Rikers, Councilor Champagne. The council approved the general accounts for the municipality of East Ferris as indicated in the check register dated February 27th, 2024, in the amount of $290,143.26.
All in favor? Yvonne, thank you so much. And under, this is just to mention that the other delegation we had discussed previously was to for regarding Castle Home. To follow up on the letter that we had been sent by all municipalities together, and as well a request for additional funding for the beds. Those were, so it's a Castle Home, we'll organize that with other municipalities. Join that letter, and so we'll be for us to participate in it as well.
That's Ministry of Housing? No, that's Ministry of Long-Term Care.
You want to have one?
No.
If you none, turn to by law.
Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Rikers and Councilor Kelly.
Don't need.
Whereas council to municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session, be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from February 13th through February 27th, 2024, be read a first, second, third time. Question number 2024-10, and that subject will be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
All in favor? Say all and adjournment.
Mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Kelly, Deputy Mayor Rikers, that we do now adjourn at 8:17 PM and meet again on March 12th.
All in favor? Say all. Okay, thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I see everyone in 2.